I'm going to put a time limit of 20 minutes on this video so I don't talk too long about it. I want to talk a little bit about approaching with Zero Suit Samus and kind of some of the mix-up options that go into playing this crazy game that we call Super Smash Brothers. So, there's this term in fighting games called yomi. It's based off the verb stem of yomi mas in Japanese, which is called, or which translates into to read, like, you know, a book or something like that. And there's a concept that forms in the metagame where if you're able to know what your opponent's doing, that's the term for yomi. But what happens is, if your opponent knows that you know what they're going to do, and that should alter what they do, etc., etc., etc. So, that's what yomi is. Then the idea behind, because Zero Suit's approach game, for the most part, is beaten by shield, you're going to want to try to sequence in order to work around that. And when I say sequence, I want to talk a little bit about what that means. Sequencing is similar to, like, if you have a pattern for moves. There's this idea in fighting games where if you're too predictable, or if you're predictable, that's not a good thing. And I would contend that's not necessarily true, because if you know what you're doing, if you follow yomi, if your opponent knows what you're doing, then they're going to do something, you know, to counter it. So if you're repetitive, then they will probably also be repetitive. For example, let's say if I sit here and shoot out Paralyzer, you know, over and over and over and over again. When I shoot that in that range, we're going to end up with Diddy Kong probably hitting shield, you know. The Paralyzer's going to come right through here, and they'll put their shield bubble up to block it. And they can do that infinitely if they don't, you know, if they don't want to keep the game at a standstill, they can just keep doing Paralyzer over, 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 and over. And that is what it is. Now, if you think about, if you're in here in shield, what are your options to drop and do an attack? But I think in this game, shielding is shield drop is a 10 frame cooldown, so you put yourself at this frame advantage automatically in 10 frames if they're going to try to do any of their grounded options to counterattack. They can also spot dodge in this situation, and they can also roll in this situation. So let's start at like yomi level 1. So if I'm shooting Paralyzer over and over and over, they're going to shield the Paralyzer. At some point, if it hit confirms, great, you grab them and then you follow up on it, and that's like pretty much guaranteed, so you don't even really have to put too much thought into that. Now, it starts getting tricky when they don't actually get hit by Paralyze and they're shielding over and over again, because when they get hit, they have 0 options, they're in hit stun, but when they're in shield and they're shielding it, they can, as we mentioned, drop their shield and attack, they can jump, they can roll, or they can spot dodge. So, if we want to counter shield, obviously we run up and just grab. And that's not too much different than if you hit them, but that's dependent on them holding up their shield the entire time. The counter to grab, of course, if I were to, you know, hit grab, hold on, let me see if I can, I don't know what the controls are on this thing. Alright, so if I hit grab, right, I can spot dodge with Diddy. And that's the count, that's like one of the basic counters to that option. So what happens is, if you paralyze her enough, and then you run in, they're going to start thinking, you know, your opponent's going to start thinking, oh, he's going to grab me. What should I do? I should spot dodge. At which point, you don't necessarily have to commit to grabbing, and you can just keep on running past them. If you see them spot dodge, you turn around and you pivot grab them. Which is, you know, a pretty awesome, pretty cool looking mix-up. It's one of the beauties of the Super Smash Brothers fighting game, where you're not limited to this finite space and you're not limited to facing your opponent. You can just keep running past them for all day if you really want to. So, we've done Paralyzer to shield to try to grab their shield. If they spot dodge, you can run through and pivot grab them. Now, let's say you run past them and they think, they hold their shield because they're disciplined, and they think, oh, this guy's going to try to pivot grab me. What can they do again? They can probably try to spot dodge the pivot grab attempt, right? In the new Super Smash Bros. Wii U game, we have this option where out of run, we're able to charge, we're able to do forward smash and straight out of run. So, rather than pivot grabbing, you're able to run past them and then forward smash. And that forward smash is going to hit that spot dodge counter option. Now, if you think about how this fits into the game flow, you want to save your smash attacks to kill, obviously. So what you can do is play the entire game where you're just throwing out, you know, Paralyzer to try to grab their shield for it, or run past them and pivot grab them, or trying to catch the spot dodges. And once you pivot grab them enough, and you know you've racked up damage, around that time you should be putting them around kill percent. At which point they're sequenced and set up to where you can just throw out that forward smash and kill them for it. All right, so that's like just kind of basic. So we've gotten Paralyzer to grab their shield, Paralyzer to pivot grab to catch their spot dodge, Paralyzer to, you know, reverse forward smash to catch their spot dodge with a pivot grab. Now, at the same time, we also mentioned that they're able to roll in that situation, which also beats the grab. You know, if I just run at them and they're holding their shield and they roll behind me, right? That would obviously beat the grab attempt that I would put in that situation. So, the option for that is if you are fast enough to see them roll behind you, you can throw a preemptive pivot grab to try to stuff it. It's kind of, I guess that's risky. I personally don't have the reaction time to make that kind of read, so you could just, you know, reset and throw another Paralyzer at them, because the idea behind rolling away from somebody in this situation is it's a very defensive option. They're giving up the ability to normally counterattack you as a means of getting away. Like if we're in shield right here and we roll away, that's harder for me to punish. I could probably get it with a dash attack from neutral with Zero Suit, or a dash grab if I'm like probably not even a dash grab, just because of reaction times and how fast other options come out. So that being said, I mean, it's sometimes if they're gonna roll away behind you, it's better off just to reset to neutral. But the option is there to cover that. Now, it gets even more complicated because, of course, the grab option is beaten by jump out of shield too. And a lot of times, you know, characters can throw out a preemptive, like, how do I neutral this? Oh, that's not, let's see, alright, so they can neutral air out of it, and that covers, like, a lot of options. You can also, instead of, you know, if you Paralyzer enough at them, right, and they shield, if you think they're gonna jump, you can always just throw out a preemptive forward air at them, like, and it gets even, like, more fakey if you just throw a shield flash, just to make them think that you're going to go through the grab. Like, a lot of times I'll be very formulaic and I'll flash shield before I grab. Just, not only so I don't commit as hard with the dash grab running forward, but also because, you see how that much it slides on the dash grab right there? But also because it just, they see a visual cue that you're going to do something. So, that flash of the shield is enough that might cue them to think, oh, he's going to grab me or something like that. So, and you can even, I think you can do it. I could do it on 3, so I don't know if you can do it on this game still. You used to be able to pivot grab out of shield flash. Oh, they might have gotten rid of it. Tell me they got rid of it. Well, that just kind of kills that part of the video. It's okay. They got rid of it, I think. I might have to make a thread about that. You used to be able to flash. Oh, there you go. So you can flash shield right there and pivot grab if you're really good. There. So you can always shield flash as a visual cue. So that part of the video does stand. Alright, never mind. But if they jump out of it, you can throw out a preemptive forward air or something like that, or preemptive aerial. You can all, and that being said, if they try to roll behind you in that case, if you short hop, you know, Zero Suit has the option of covering that back roll behind you with a back air behind you. It's kind of why Choco likes to set up with neutral air and stuff like that. So you have the option just try to throw out and stuff them with an aerial, or you can, you know, right there. Of course, a lot of characters, or Zero Suit Samus is the benefit of also being a character that can reverse that way. So if you run past them, you kind of have a lot of freedom. A lot of the times I see a lot of players that just kind of get into this gear where they have to approach their opponent from the what's it called, from the front, you know, keep continuing on in the situation. If you're shooting Paralyzers at them, we're talking about approaching the Paralyzer, right? They could also roll away from you, and that's that similar situation we were talking about, where if they roll away from me, it's kind of hard to punish it. You can keep going with a dash attack, you can keep going with a roll, but another option too is if they roll out of it, If you're running at them and they're rolling, I wish I could have like another person. You can run with them as with the roll if you get a hard read on it, and then just boost kick them out of it. So like imagine Diddy's right here where I'm at, you know? Diddy Kong is gonna be right here where I'm at, okay? And he's gonna roll to where he's at right here. So imagine like I'm gonna sit here at the end of the stage and shoot paralyzers in that range where he you know, he was. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna roll away from him, and then he can just boost kick them out of roll. That's option to kill them, you know. And at the same time, if they spot dodge too, if they do an early spot dodge, you can always reverse boost kick them to cover the spot dodge option instead of throwing out the pivot grab to get them. And that will end up killing too. There's a lot of like really just beautiful structures that you can do. The unfortunate aspect of this, and this is kind of like why I'm posting in the threads, that shield is really powerful against the zero suit, especially if you're really determined to not leave the ground, and it's just kind of mind-numbing. Technically speaking, the frame data on her grab is within the realm of human reaction time, so you need to really, you know, catch your opponent sleeping, I guess. It's not quite saying that because, as I was saying, the idea behind sequencing is to just kind of make it so that you lull them into a false sense of security that their shield is going to beat all these options. And they're not, there really isn't, like in other fighting games, blocks, you know, block strings that you can do, but if you can get them into their shield, it quasi-traps them, and it's very, like, you know, similar to a lot of the tech chases you see in maybe Melee or even in all these other games. I'm sure there's other ways to utilize the punish options, but of course, oh, I should also mention the final, you know, and then you have the safety option where you shoot a paralyzer and then you throw out the neutral air on their shield, and that's kind of like the safety pressure option. You kind of want to, I kind of just like to throw those out to just kind of keep conditioning them into shield, and just keep getting them into that lull sense of security. But at some point down the line, you're going to have to go for it. I actually had a kind of a funny conversation. I just got done getting wrecked by Shaky for the last, we'll say, 3 hours. And was playing very, you know, he's just kind of trading with me because he said that at some point I was going to have to either grab or boost kick him. And those are the most punishable moves in the game. Because, let's face it, you boost kick, your opponent can, like, unplug their controller, plug it back in, and hit the crap out of you if you grab. It's a lot faster, I feel like. I don't know, it might not actually... It's faster than Brawl, but it's still pretty slow. They're able to hit you. I know, I've seen... Having played MJG, he's gotten villagers forward smash bowling ball out on that, so... It's pretty horrendous, so if you think about risk-reward... The risk is they're able to react to it, and the reward is only a grab to get them out of shield. However... You have to mitigate. You want to mitigate the risk in order to get the reward by using sequencing, in order to, like, you know, open them up. It seems kind of counterintuitive, I guess, to try to, you know, condition them into shield, the thing that's supposed to beat Zero Suit Samus. But at the end of the day, because of the neutral game being what it is, you're gonna have to make a play to outplay them. And then once you're able to outplay them and get them into that, you know, disadvantaged circumstance where you have them grab. Now, like right here, we're in the wheelhouse. This is the end of the world for a lot of characters. You up air and you can like hit confirm into boost kick Rufios or, you know, all kinds of really stupid stuff. But if you're gonna play this character, at least from what I can tell, and you want to play it on the aggressive side, you're going to have to play that mind numbing. Just you're gonna have to outplay them at some point in order to really get in and open them up. Otherwise, you're gonna be limited to, like, I don't know, poking people with jab or forward tilting them, stuff like that. That's kind of like on the safer, lower risk but higher reward option side of things. So just kind of to review what we talked about, because I think I've been talking for quite a bit. We have from Paralyzer, they're gonna shield the initial Paralyzer. You can run in and grab. You can Paralyzer, and they think you're gonna grab, so they spot dodge. You can pivot grab it. Alternatively, if they're at kill percents, you can run past them in. Oh wow! I just got baited by Diddy Kong right. That's where I just die. He the get up attack, which is like kind of the equivalent of spot dodge and frame data. But you can run past them and reverse boost kick them. If they roll away, that's where you can dash attack them. Alternatively, you can boost kick them out of the roll if they're really going to try to roll that way. If they roll behind you, you can reset to Paralyzer, or you can try to preemptive pivot grab them. Alternatively, if you're playing the short hop game, you can, if you paralyze them and want to approach a short hop, back air covers that roll, and neutral air covers them staying in shield, and just kind of pressures them to try to stay in shield, and then they get trapped. And like your goal is to get your opponent into their own head by using these sequencing and mix-up options. So if you take anything away from this, being repetitive isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's like some sort of negative connotation with spamming as a rule, but you can condition your opponent by sequencing and lulling them into that false insecurity. And then once you get them, and sequence them into doing some bad options, like for example, we said rolling and spot dodging was a way to, cover them with, or hit them with boost kick or back air, which are kill moves. That might be something to look for. You gotta like really pay attention to what your opponent does. So while you're spamming moves, it takes like almost no effort to just sit here and shoot out Paralyzer. You should spend all of your mental energy, in my opinion, at that point on this character. Your opponent, you need to be like really, like when I played Ice Climbers and Brawl and shot out Ice Blocks as a kind of a scout move, I would sit there and just kind of count what reactions my opponent had to my moves, and a lot of the times in that case, because Ice Climber's guard was so powerful, they'd end up using, they would jump in that situation, so that's why you'd start throwing out a lot of up airs until they got hit by enough up airs to where they thought, oh, maybe staying on the ground might be a good idea instead of taking all the up airs. So that's about 15 minutes worth of talking about approaching with Zero Suit Samus with the aid of Paralyzer. I mean, you can obviously do all this stuff with other characters without Paralyzer. It's just, if you're using it without Paralyzer, the negative is, of course, they're not trapped in shield, or they're not as compelled to go into shield as an option. So it becomes a little more difficult. But a lot of the things, they still apply. You can still run past people and pivot grab them. You can, fake them out. You can sequence them. And that doesn't even begin to really get into like, the defense options. You can roll, you can fake at them and roll backwards. You can fake in, fake out, as an option, just kind of feel them out. So the point of it being sequence, see what your opponent does, and then once you get a read on that and you can kind of shift the risk in your favor, then you can start netting on the heavy rewards that this character is able to give. If you have any questions, of course, go ahead and leave some comments for me. I can probably cover it, or some stuff that I haven't even thought about. Like, I know a lot of characters can reverse up smash instead of forward smash. That's also a good option. People have been known to, if the character's a good back air, run past their opponent and try to hit them with back air because they want to hit an aerial opponent behind them, and you can catch them during the jump squat or the shield drop animation. And that's more on the baiting side than the sequencing side. I can make a video about that later, but for now I just kind of wanted to talk about really how to use Paralyzer, a camping tool, to really aid approaching and opening up your opponent. Thanks guys, thanks for watching, hope you learned something. Again, although I should mention, take everything I have with a grain of salt. I have a tendency to do alright in tournament up until the point I've either played someone better than me or had too much to drink, and it is what it is. So CT Next Level Streaming Deluxe, excuse me, making videos and ideally helping you making plays. Thanks guys for watching.